All right, so our agency presentation is on IRC, the International Rescue Committee in Atlanta.
The IRC is located in the Tucker area. The address is 2305 Park Lake Drive, Northeast.
All right, the IRC mission statement and vision statement are pretty related, but we'll just go over them really shortly. The mission statement is to help people whose lives and livelihoods are shattered by conflict and disaster to survive, to recover, and to gain control over their future.
And the IRC vision statement is to lead the humanitarian field by implementing high impact, cost effective programs for people affected by crisis and by using our learning and experience to shape policy and practice.
And you'll see how these two really play into the core values and the services that we provide here at the IRC. All right, just some quick history and facts. The IRC as an organization was developed or founded in 1933. The IRC here in Atlanta was founded in 1979, and since then we've resettled over 26,000 refugees from 55 different countries. Also, we've served a total of 3,512 clients since 2017, which is an incredibly high number compared to the other relief and refugee organizations in the area. A lot of our populations are from many, many different countries over the world, but the most diverse and the most common countries would be from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is the Congolese population, as well as Syria, Somalia, Burma, and Afghanistan. And this is a really important stat that I found. 82% of households resettled by the IRC have an employed adult and are self-sufficient within the first 6 months of resettlement and arrival in the U.S.
And that's one thing that's been really gratifying to me is being able to see some of our clients achieve self-sufficiency and be able to provide for their families and really establish a successful life in the U.S. So this is the org chart for the IRC Atlanta. Our executive director is J.D. McCrary, and our deputy director is Justin Howell. We have 6 different programs that we offer here at the IRC. Clients have the ability to be in one or all 6. It really just depends on their needs. Those programs are the Community Integration Program, the Health and Wellness Program, Economic Empowerment Program, the Resettlement Program, Education and Learning Program, and the Protection Program. Elaine and I both work in the Resettlement Program, so that's where our knowledge mostly falls, but we'll get into kind of what some of the services that are provided in each of these programs are later on in the slideshow.
And this is just a more a more in-depth look at resettlement as a whole, just because that's where we're working in, and we don't need to look at every single department structure. So this is just basically our structure. Again, he mentioned J.D. McCrary, our executive director, and Justin Howell. And then here is Bertukan Asefa, who's the resettlement manager. She's in charge of all of us and is technically one of our bosses as well. Amal Warsama is actually our direct supervisor, and she is also the social adjustment supervisor, and she works as a really big icon throughout the whole department. And some other key people are Tamara Hofer and Robin. So they're both supervisors for Tamara's for health and wellness, and Robin is for resettlement. Just this recent summer, Tamara actually joined with us, and also health and wellness merged kind of with resettlement so that they could provide a more concise and effective client services, because we realized that health and wellness really does play a huge role with resettlement. So we thought it would be better to put resettlement and health and wellness into one department together.
And one thing that's been really great about Elaine and I's position as interns is we get to work closely with each one of these people, get different perspectives on services that can be provided, and different insight from each of them. So that's been really valuable for both of us.
Definitely. This just looks at a more in-depth look of the population that we serve. Again, the population we serve is refugees, asylees, and other immigrants, as well as human trafficking victims, victims of abuse and torture, and people who have been persecuted in their home countries for various different reasons. They come from really diverse backgrounds in terms of race, ethnicity, culture, socioeconomic status, religion, even sexual orientation, and we are really inclusive of those diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, and it's pretty evident that the populations that we serve are very vulnerable and an oppressed population. some common characteristics that we see among them are low income, minimal education, diverse race backgrounds, lack of employment history, a lot of mental illness, and really a big lack of access to healthcare. So that's obviously one of the big things that we try to focus on, is helping them to navigate their healthcare services.
Alrighty, and going into the student roles, so basically what we do here at IRC as interns. These are a lot of the different variety of things that we do and we've done since we've been here this semester. But a couple of the main things that we'd like to really highlight that we do is we really help and assist caseworkers in all the different departments with a variety of different client interactions. We help with providing helping with computer services like renewing applications, or even providing applications for food stamps, Medicaid, and other insurance, even Social Security benefits, disability benefits, and anything that could be related to housing and transportation. We help them navigate those systems because they're not aware of the things that are in place in the American society.
We also have the ability to accept walk-in clients. So clients can come in and come back, and we will help them navigate a number of things like Elaine touched on. Hey, we got this in the mail. Can you help us figure out what it's for, what we need to do? And Elaine and I are pretty skilled in being able to go in and solve the issues that they come in with. So that's been great. And I know some of the things that they come in with might seem easy to people that have been living in America their entire lives, but obviously extremely difficult for somebody going through a difficult transition to an entirely new country and can't even speak the English language. So our services are extremely important to our clientele, and it's a very gratifying thing to see the gratitude that they express when we help them. So It's been really,
and it's important
really
that
cool.
we really go in and assess quickly, because we have so many clients, and to sit there and take forever to assess the problem and actually carry it out and figure out a solution, we would never be able to fully assist our clientele, because like you said, the walk-ins are a big part of what we do here. They come in and they say they need something, and we go in and we assess and we implement any kind of problem or solution that needs to be solved.
Yeah, and some other things that are a part of our roles, we have to diligently case note all client interaction. Elaine and I both get to go on home visits, so we get to see clients in their home environment and can maybe even pick up on what some of their needs are while we're in their home. So we get to do a lot of cool things for this population. We really do. Some additional client services Elaine touched on. Advocating is a big part of what we do. Outreach to different organizations, healthcare organizations, mental health organizations. We outsource all of our mental health services to different agencies around the greater Atlanta area. So reaching out to them, getting in touch, expressing what their needs might be, and then letting the professionals over there do their work. We promote support groups in the local communities. We advocate for inclusion in local organizations. We do a lot of scheduling of doctor's appointments, handling healthcare, Medicaid bills, and inquiries. We provide daily instruction to adults in intensive multi-level English language, computer literacy, and job skills classes. So obviously these English classes and career development classes are crucial to achieving self-sufficiency for our clients, and a big part of helping them be successful.
Definitely.
And Elaine and I are both within, like we said, we're in the resettlement program, so we're much more familiar with the services that we directly provide. However, the IRC offers a vast scope of services throughout the 6 different programs that are in place here at the IRC. So we don't ever want to, each case we have to handle on a case-by-case individualized basis, because each client and each case each case is going to present with different needs, so we need to tend to each of those separately, and we're blessed with the ability to be able to do that here at the IRC.
All right, and we talked a little bit about Amal, who's our direct supervisor earlier when we were talking about the org chart. We just wanted to give you some background information about her so that you can get to know her a little bit better. She graduated from the University of Georgia School of Social Work. It was, I believe, 2 years ago, and she obtained her LMSW this past summer before we became interns here. I remember we were being interviewed by her, and she mentioned that she had just received it. She, like I said, her title is a social adjustment manager in the resettlement department, and she's been here over a year. I believe it'll be 2 years in March or sometime next year, mid 2019. Some of her job duties: she manages an incredibly large caseload. She works in ICM as well as social adjustment and helps with any RNP cases. RNP is reception and placement again, and ICM is intensive case management.
And Amal wears a lot of hats in her role. She has a great open door policy where really anybody within the resettlement department can come and ask her questions, and she's so knowledgeable on so many levels that she almost always has the answers. So that's really been great for Elaine and I to be able to work with somebody like that. So Amal's boss, Bertukan Asefa, she is the resettlement department manager. So in charge of the entire resettlement department. Bless you.
Thank you.
She graduated from the Hunter School of Social Work in New York City. She's been at the IRC for over 2 years, and she's got over 10 years of experience in the nonprofit social work field. Some of her job duties and responsibilities: she is responsible for oversight of the entire resettlement department. Her job really focuses on communicating policy implementation and results. She works very closely with the headquarter office in New York. So she manages the budgets, operations, the logistics, and she's responsible for ensuring efficiency in all of service delivery throughout the resettlement department. Bertukan's role is much more organization-facing versus client-facing. So like I said, she handles a lot of the policy implementation, but isn't as directly handling clients on a day-to-day basis like Amal is. And just to speak on the budget, so both agency and program budgets at the IRC in Atlanta, they vary each year, and that's dependent on a number of factors. So the presidential determinations, the governmental regulations that are being put in place, they affect what the IRC is able to work with as far as budget goes. The number of arrivals to the U.S. is as well very important to what the budget ends up being. So the salary, we were able to gather kind of an average mean salary of a caseworker in the resettlement program is about $40,000, which, to us, or at least to me, seems a bit low given the tremendous amount of hard work and the positive impacts that they're making on all these people's lives. But nonetheless, that's the number. And some of the sources of funding that come to the IRC are the PRM, or the Bureau of Migration Population Matching Grant, which is a federally funded through the Office of Refugee Resettlement. We also receive reimbursements from the Department of Human Services. So the DHS has a website that we will go in, document what our service was, and we will be reimbursed by the DHS based on what the service provided was. And another big part of our budget is private funds and donations. This past Tuesday, on Giving Tuesday, we were able to raise $42,000 in one day. So obviously that's going to go a long way and touch a lot of different lives through our clientele. Was also able to gather that the 2019 budget will be less than the 2018 budget, given the presidential determinations and the government regulations and restrictions that are being placed on the refugee population. The numbers have been decreased from 45,000 down to 30,000 this year on the number of refugees that are allowed into the United States. So I wasn't able to get a strict number on the budget. They kept that confidential from us, but was able to gather all that information. So
right, and again, like Bryan said, the budget really does change depending on a number of different things, and there's no way to exactly pinpoint what IRC will be given. Nonetheless, IRC Atlanta. So it really is dependent on so many different things.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I was looking through the financials, the audited financials that are available online, they were broken up into U.S. operations and international operations, and they were not broken down into each branch. So I was not able to gather a number from there. It was just the entire U.S. operations.
All right, and just really quick, we're going to talk about the human rights and also the social and economic justices that this population faces. Non-discrimination and respect are things that IRC is really great at. For both of those, we try to make it really inclusive and really appropriate for the entire population. Non-discrimination, we really touch on a safe and inclusive environment, no matter what background, no matter what identity, no matter what characteristic or quality that you identify with, and it really just celebrates the massive amounts of diversity within our clientele, as well as our staff, our interns. We have a lot of volunteers as well, and so it really just plays a big role. And like I said, respect is also really big within our office, as well as IRC or as a whole.
Confidentiality, another huge one. Our clients obviously have the right to access their records and what programs they're eligible for, access to programs and services. They're able to file grievances. They can reject services. And yeah, that's just a couple that we were able to touch on.
And we've talked about advocacy a lot throughout the entire presentation. And that is one of not only the big human rights and just justices that we advocate for, but it's also a huge thing that emanates through cultural competency and just the core value and foundation of IRC as a whole.
Yeah, and oftentimes we see that our clients are really unaware of their basic human rights in the United States. So that's kind of what the IRC is here for, so we can advocate on their behalf to ensure that they are receiving what they are entitled to.
And just like I said, cultural competence is huge here. It is something that IRC prides itself on, and something that we also touched on in our papers. And we wrote about how, I think in both of our individual papers, we talked about how IRC is exceptional in this area and that they excel in a lot of different standards within the cultural competency of the NASW. And again, the office is really diverse. They all speak a multiple different amount of languages. Some people don't, and that's okay, but we have still a huge, diverse, and massively different cultural environment here, no matter who they are and no matter where they come from. The IRC Way is something that we also use throughout the office. There are IRC Way signs all across the walls and everybody's cubicles and offices. And IRC Way is also a training tool during our cultural competency training sessions, which staff and interns are required to go to, or they must go to an orientation. I think the three principles that IRC Way is integrity, advocacy, and what was that other one? Service. Yep, service. So those are three things that they really use when teaching cultural competence.
And what I was able to pick up when I was going through the NASW standards for cultural competence, all 10 standards that are in there, we do a tremendous job of touching on and exemplifying on a daily basis. Sure. We are really exceptional and exceeded my expectations in cultural competence, and being able to work in an environment like this has really helped me and been valuable for me in achieving, or at least working on, my cultural competence levels personally. And then the power within the IRC, it seemed to me to be pretty typical of the corporate structure really everywhere in America. So the power really lies with those that hold the more esteemed titles. They have the ability and the last word when they're implementing changes, and they can do so if they desire. Policies are mostly determined by the corporate office in New York City and then passed down to the local branches, like Elaine and I have touched on. We have a nice little graphic here that just shows presidential, federal government. Those policies are determined, then passed off to our IRC headquarters in New York, U.S. headquarters in New York, and then passed off to the local branches. So the power really lies at the top, but the IRC does do a good job of keeping an open door policy and listens to employees that maybe don't have as esteemed of titles. The policy structure, overall, I think it's fine. We have run into some problems with implementation. The IRC office in New York City isn't working with as many clients as we do here in Atlanta. So we're often the ones that are having to handle these changes and report back problems after they've already occurred versus the IRC in New York understanding the changes, where the difficulties lie, and fixing those before distributing the new policies among U.S. branches. So that's one recommendation for change that I made in my paper. But overall, it's a wonderful, wonderful organization that touches the lives of thousands of people each year, and I've really valued my experience here thus far, and look forward to the next semester.
Right, and I think one of the biggest things that I've learned here is not only is cultural competence so big, but social work and the core values within the NASW are embedded throughout the entire organization. And we really use those values in everything that we do because it is so important, especially because our population is such a vulnerable and oppressed population, and they have undergone so many different experiences, so many different unique things that we can't even fathom. So I think it's really important to note that social work is really a key and crucial thing and crucial foundation in IRC.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.